All right, guys, so there's this trope that goes around on the internet about black conservatives. And the idea is that, well, black conservatives, you only exist to make white people feel comfortable about racial issues, right? You exist to defend the white man and to ignore all the racism out there from whites, right? This is what they say. And then they say, well, you selectively cover stories to make sure that, again, white people feel comfortable about their racism. This is what they say about us, right? This is some criticism I got on Twitter, okay? As this guy tweeted me and he said, hey, Greg, since you're always accusing black people of being race hustlers and victims, how come you haven't covered this? Now, this is a story about a video that went viral of some kids. It looks like they were wearing blackface on Halloween and some jail outfits. Now, my response to why I didn't talk about that story is simple. I don't care about stupid kids wearing blackface on Halloween, right? I really don't. I don't think that's a story that is worth my time, okay? Kids are stupid. They do stupid things. I didn't think it was worth talking about. Now, this guy follows up. He says, no, you haven't covered this because it goes against your cherry-picked content that is selected to trigger your racist conservative fan base. If it was a group of black men robbing and assaulting a group of GOP lawmakers, it would have been your breaking news. Okay, so this guy is accusing me of selective coverage. He's saying that you only cover things to trigger your racist conservative fan base, right? Because you don't want to make white people uncomfortable. Well, I'm here to tell you that I have covered plenty of stories when it comes to overt racism from white people, particularly if we're talking about white people that are in power. Like, for example, the city councilman down in Alabama, Tommy Bryant, that called a black woman the N-word, okay, during a city council meeting, or he said the N-word with hard ER. I covered that story. I covered a story about the judge that also said the N-word while she was watching security footage of a guy trying to break into her home. I covered that story. There's plenty of stories that I will cover, particularly if there's somebody in power that does something that is overtly racist. Now, I'm not going to sit here and cover ticky-tack stuff that the left likes to talk about all the time, like race hustlers Rashard Richey, right, whose whole YouTube channel is just Karens in the wild, aka white people in public acting up and then saying is racist, right? Automatically coming to the conclusion of racism over ticky-tack interactions, over passive-aggressive interactions. No, I'm not going to cover that stuff because, again, I don't have any proof or evidence that the nature of the interaction comes from a place of racism. However, if I have evidence that that's the case, clear evidence, I will talk about it. And I've been challenged to cover this story right here that is going viral, that the left is making go viral as an example of racism in schools. But what the left doesn't realize is that this story actually really exposes the hypocrisy on the left when we're talking about the subject of teachers and conversations that they're allowed to have with students in school. And I want to talk about that because, again, the left doesn't realize that this story right here actually proves that conservatives are right, right? That conservatives are right on this issue. It actually proves our point. Okay, so let's talk about it. As a teacher out in Texas has been placed on administrative leave after telling students that he believes that his race is superior, that he is ethnocentric. I want to go ahead and play the clip.
Deep down in my heart, I'm ethnocentric, which means I think my race is the superior one.
Oh, I didn't say that.
Wait, no, let me finish. Let me finish.
Hey, look.
So, white is better than all.
No, let me finish. Let me
Go
finish.
ahead.
Hey.
I think everybody thinks that, they're just not honest about
Hey,
it.
I'm not racist though. I like all types of kinds.
Did I say I don't like people?
People only
You
think
just
that.
Wait, so you said you are what? You are
You
racist?
saying you're like
You're
I think
racist?
everybody's a racist at that level.
No, but you said you are racist. Correct?
I did. I did. Yeah, I'm trying to be honest.
Yes, I'm racist.
No, I'm not saying it again. I've said it enough.
So you're
I
racist.
think I slightly told you to stop speaking.
Yes, you
Damn
said
it.
I
Put
am.
your phone up.
I respected you.
I'm
I
putting the
actually
phone up.
respected you for a while, but like
I'm putting the
now
phone up.
I don't even got no more respect for you.
Put it up.
Yeah, for real. I don't think I got respect for him no more, bro.
You know, you should have more respect. 'Cause I'm lying, yeah.
So you are a racist.
Damn, how many times I gotta say it?
You been cussing at me?
No, I'm not cussing at anybody.
'Cause
I'm
he's
just I'm
black.
frustrated with this conversation.
That shit started. You said when I said you were a racist.
You asked the question.
No, you were talking talking to him.
Get it,
and
Mello.
he said, yes, I'm a racist. Yes.
Somebody asked a question, I responded.
Hey,
I'll be sure to put this on the internet.
hey, I hope you know I'm famous, so I'm gonna put it on the internet.
I'll be sure to put this on the internet.
Yeah, you guys, do what you need to do.
I'm gonna call my father and say I'm gonna post this.
Miss Horn is right over there.
And you know my
And
dad
this
has
board
over
is
a million
black.
on Instagram, so I'm gonna tell him to post this.
You guys don't think that I've made peace with all this stuff? You think I'm still walking around prejudiced against people?
Well, are you trying to say you used to think that?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
No, you didn't.
Why'd you say I am?
You said
I
I am
am. You
racist.
said I am racist, which means I think
No,
I'm
you said
racist.
I am racist. That means you're
With the hard
That
S.
means right now. Like you're
With the
racist.
hard S.
Can I finish?
Yeah.
Can I finish? Just let me finish, okay.
I thought we were done.
I think it's,
He's starting to think up something to say.
you don't know me at all. You can't put words in my mouth. Just
I'm
let
just
me
trying
finish.
to explain what you
I'm trying to explain to you something that I've learned in my life. That's all I'm trying to say.
I took a doodle. Like, I actually have to go now.
Go get the person fast.
Alright.
Yeah, so obviously there's a whole lot of outrage about this. Okay, this story is going viral. You got outlets like The Root that is covering this. A lot of people on social media saying that they think that the guy should be fired. It's appalling. You know, this is typical Texas, blah, 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 blah. Okay, awesome. Right, awesome. There's a whole lot of outrage. Let's talk about outrage. But first, before we talk about outrage, let's talk about what he actually said. Okay? He said that he believes in ethnocentrism, right? He believes that his race is superior to others, and he thinks that deep down inside, everybody feels that way, right? They just don't want to admit it. And I think there's a little bit of truth to that. I think more people probably do feel like they have some type of racial superiority than they would like to admit, including minorities. Again, that's what, race hustlers want to pretend. They want to pretend like they don't think that they're superior to others when they definitely think they're superior to others. And they're just as racist as all the people that they claim are the most racist people in our society. In fact, again, most of my videos about racism comes from racism on the left. It comes from these so-called minorities that always cry racism while at the same time perpetuating racism because they're so overt about it. I'd be hard-pressed to find stories where you have this type of confession, right, where a white person just comes out and say, yeah, I'm racist, right? Which, low-key, if it was in a setting outside of school, I would respect. Right? I have no problems with it. If somebody says, look, I believe my race is superior to yours, hey, I kind of respect the honesty. Okay? Even if I disagree with what they're saying, I respect the honesty. Keep it 100 with me. Tell me exactly how you feel. But I think we all agree that this is inappropriate in school, that this is an inappropriate conversation for teachers to be having with kids in school. And the left is outraged. They want the guy to be fired. They're upset that he was just placed on administrative leave. So the left agrees that teachers shouldn't be having these types of conversations with kids in school. You agree when it's a white teacher saying something that you define as racist. You agree with it. But if a black teacher comes out here and says, I believe in white supremacy. I believe white people are bad just the virtue of being white because their ancestors did bad things. Oh, well, no, that's just racial justice. It's totally fine to teach that to kids in school. And in fact, if you point it out and say that this is being taught in school, you're a conspiracy theorist, right? You're a conspiracy theorist. You're actually racist. Okay, you guys understand how this works? You guys see the double standard here, or put it this way, the lack of standards from the left, because they don't have any standards. When it's a white teacher being overtly racist, it's fine. When it's a black teacher, or even a white teacher saying things that are racial, having these racial conversations, making white kids feel bad, okay? Putting white people down simply because they're white. Oh, you're not supposed to complain about that. That's supposed to be totally fine in school. Totally fine. When teachers are having conversation about gender and sex and talking about, the patriarchy, talking about heteronormative society, okay, talking about all this other stuff they shouldn't be talking about. Oh, no, it's totally fine. You're a homophobe, you're a transphobe if you're against it. But they all agree that it's inappropriate for teachers to talk to kids about race and have these race conversations when it's a white person doing it in a way that they don't like. And this is why I said this story is actually proving conservatives right. It's actually goes in our favor because I'm just against this, period. I'm against this man having these types of conversations with these kids. He should have never had that conversation. So if he ends up getting fired, there's nothing I can really say, even though I do respect his opinion. Okay, I respect the fact that he's honest about how he feels. I can't say anything if he gets fired, because if he was having that same conversation, right, or if it was a black person having that same conversation, having a critical race theory type of conversation, hey, I would say they should be fired. We should be talking about this in schools. If they was having a conversation about gender theory, I would say, hey, you should be fired. You should be having these conversations in school with kids. I'm consistent. The left is right. Yeah, this guy should be fired. But where's all this outrage for the teachers that are pushing critical race theory and pushing gender theory? Where is the outrage? Because you agree they shouldn't be having these type of racial conversations in school. Why is this not okay, but everything else is okay? It's totally fine to push racism against whites. That's totally great. Totally fine. Totally fine to push gender theory, queer theory, all this other stuff, all this other crap. But you so outraged by this, though. Again, this is what I'm talking about. You can either have all of it or you can have none of it. Either this teacher's allowed to state his views on race or he's not, right? And if he's not allowed to do it, then no teacher's allowed to have these type of conversations with kids, including conversations about gender and sex. They shouldn't be allowed to have that. But if they are allowed to do it, if we're going to say, oh, it's okay for teachers to talk to kids about sex and race and all this other stuff, okay, good. He can talk to kids about his opinions on race. I'm just saying, you can either have all of it or have none of it. I'm consistent. I don't think they should have any of it. I think that teachers should go to school and focus on teaching kids about the subject that they were paid to teach. He should have never had this conversation. He should have never engaged with these students in this conversation. And because he engaged with these students, he's probably going to lose his job, which he probably already knew. Okay, once he figured out it was recorded and all that, he was probably like, hey, look, I'm just going to go ahead and be honest about it, right? Now, I will say this before I end this video. There's a chance that maybe, just maybe, this conversation might have been about the academic subject of ethnocentrism, okay? And maybe he was giving an example of it. I'm not entirely sure, right? It doesn't sound like that's the case, but I'm just saying maybe that could be the case. Now, if that is the case, I don't think he should be fired if he was giving an example, because, again, these videos could be out of context. I gathered as many videos as I could find of this incident on the internet to try to paint a full story, so I don't know. But I'm just saying, if this is a conversation that he engaged in because kids asked him, was he racist? And then he just decided to give his honest opinion, then, you know, hey, he kind of dug his own grave. But again, I want to see the outrage directed at teachers that talk about this stuff, period, whether that's race, gender, sexuality, whatever. I want to see outrage there as well, too. Not just selective outrage. So, yeah, I'm principled on this. It is what it is. I don't want to see none of it. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.